everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Frankie and I make travel content, lifestyle content about living in Thailand. If you're a new subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. I hope you're enjoying the videos that I've been posting so far. Thank you for leaving your comments and feedback. I really appreciate it. I hope that you found the content so far to be valuable and entertaining too. So this video is part 2 of a little mini series about living and working in Thailand, and the purpose is to just give some value to you guys about what it's really like living in Thailand. I've lived in Thailand for over 10 years, so I have a little bit of experience and a lot of stories to tell you. If you watched my previous video, I talked about why teaching is still a great option in 2025 for living in Thailand. If you haven't seen it, I will leave a link here or here. In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what to consider before you actually take the plunge to accept a teaching job here in Thailand, and give you a little bit of my personal experience and some things to watch out for. So let's get into it. Teaching in Thailand can be a great opportunity, a life-changing experience, a chance to dive into different culture and just grow as a person. But it's not always glamorous, and it's not always what you see on social media. It's not always as easy as you might think. So here are some things that I would look out for if I was starting all over again. If you plan on moving to Thailand to teach, then there are some things that you want to consider, and one of them is qualifications. Some schools or institutes will require you to have as little as a TEFL certificate, whereas others will require you to have a more formal teaching qualification such as a PGCE or teaching license, depending on what country you are coming from. Smaller schools and language centres will have a lower threshold and will not expect you to have such higher qualifications, whereas international schools usually expect you to have a PGCE, or they would prefer you to have a PGCE. So the higher qualification you have, the easier it's going to be to get a job, and the better opportunities, more money you will be able to get. So visas and work permits. Probably one of the more trickier areas of moving to Thailand. To work legally as a teacher in Thailand, you will need to have a non-B visa and a work permit. You cannot work as a tourist. So if you come to Thailand, if you just hop on a plane as a tourist and you try to work, you will be doing so illegally. Make sure you do your research to see what you actually need before you come, especially if you're planning to work. If you've got a job in a school lined up already and you've been accepted, your school will usually take care of the work permit and the visa. Some schools might ask you to come to Thailand on a tourist visa and start working, and then they will figure out the visa situation later. But just know that that is not legal. You shouldn't be starting to work if you're still on a tourist visa. So just look out for that, because you don't want to get in trouble and ruin your experience of living in Thailand straight away. So as I said, the school normally handles it. It's a bit of a painful process of going to immigration and filling out lots of paperwork, but schools, professional schools, are very used to this. They have the designated visa officer who's very well versed in the system, and you just have to kind of show up, present the documents that they ask for you, and line up where they ask you to, sign what they ask you to, and they will kind of handle it all. That's a reason why I would say if you're going to teach in Thailand, try to choose a school with a good reputation and a more professional way of handling things, because they tend to have their how do I say they tend to have smoother systems, but not always. Also, pro tip, if you're coming to Thailand, make sure that you have a collection of passport pictures, because they are needed for most documentation, and sometimes they might ask for 3 or 4 passport pictures. So come with your selection of passport pictures that you like, to save you from having to go and get an emergency one when you're not looking your best, you know. I've been there. So in my previous video, I touched a little bit on money and what kind of salary to expect if you're coming to Thailand. So I said that it ranges from around 30,000 baht, which is not a lot, especially if you live in Bangkok where it's a little bit more pricey, to 150,000 plus if you're working in an international school, which is a very decent amount. Depending on qualifications, experience, the type of school or the type of institution that you're working in, that you're teaching in, depends on what kind of salary you can expect. If you're a non-qualified teacher and you don't have any experience and you only have a 20-hour TEFL certificate, you cannot really expect like over 50,000 baht per month or more. If you do, you're very lucky, but the salary is quite low for this kind of teaching English position. But also the expectation, the work-life balance is much lower. If you work in an international school, especially the more reputable ones, then you can expect a higher salary, and also the teaching scale does come into play, and there are a lot more perks as well. When I first moved to Thailand, I was on about 40,000, and this was quite low. I wasn't living in Bangkok, so my accommodation was much cheaper. I think it was about 12,000 baht per month, maybe even lower. And it was just like a studio apartment. So I could survive on that money, but if you want to explore, and especially if you want to live in Bangkok, it's probably not going to be enough. Also, bear in mind that you don't get paid straight away. Your school might be able to give you an advance if they're an international school, but usually you can expect to wait for a month or more before you actually get paid. So just factor that into your budgeting because it does make a difference. So with your accommodation, you might also have to pay like 2 months rent before you can, sign your contract. So just be aware of that when you're budgeting for your first few months in Thailand. And you will also need necessities to start you up. So you do need a bit of money before you actually move to Thailand, not just a plane ticket and a job offer. When applying for jobs, you want to look for things like health insurance, housing allowance, and how much that is. Also check if you get paid holidays and how many, and if you get free lunch, because it all adds up. So this is a huge thing about moving to Thailand, especially if you're from the West. It's a completely different culture and setup, and a different way of life, with different traditions, expectations. So if I were you wanting to move to Thailand, the best thing you can do is research, read, look at other people's stories of what it was like for them, look at vlogs. Just immerse yourself digitally in the culture so that when you get here, it's not so much of a shock, because there will always be things, especially if you're in Bangkok, there's so much happening that it can feel overwhelming and a bit of a culture shock. But if you're out in the sticks as well, that can also be a culture shock too. So wherever you are, there's going to be some adaptation that's happening. So do as much research as you can. I remember studying the language and learning a few key phrases, and that helped me so much when I first came, because I felt like I could at least communicate what I want or what I'm looking for, say thank you, and be polite. If you don't understand one word, then it's going to make it a bit harder and more difficult to connect. So, a little bit goes a long way when it comes to learning the language. If you've heard of saving face, this is a big part of Thai culture. Thai people do not like to be embarrassed. It's seen as very disrespectful to shout at anybody in public, and it's really not seen that much. In the 10 plus years that I've lived in Thailand, I can say I rarely see people shouting at each other in public or anything like that. And if you do, it's something serious and you should probably leave. You should probably get out of that. It's very different to Western society, where we are a little bit more confrontational maybe. That's not really a thing in Thailand, or it's not part of their culture. So just to be aware of that. And there are lots of little things about respecting the monarchy as well that you should be aware of. So just make sure you do your research, and I'll probably talk about that in future videos as well, but this is an important thing for Thailand. In regards to teaching specifically, teachers are highly respected in Thailand. So when you are a teacher here, you just have to remember that you are quite visible, especially as a foreigner. It's easy to get caught up in the fun stuff, the nightlife, parties when you're traveling. But yes, just remember that as a teacher, you're recognized, and especially with social media, how quickly information travels. It could cost you your job if you're caught doing something inappropriate outside of school hours, outside of the city. It doesn't really matter, because your school won't want that reputation attached to it either. That also applies to online behavior. You do also have to be careful about what you post online. Defamation is definitely a thing here, so just be aware about how you conduct yourself when you are actually in Thailand already. So, is teaching in Thailand right for you? It could be an amazing experience, but it's not for everyone. Make sure you know what you're getting into and prepare as best as you can. The more prepared you are, the better your experience will be. Even though it can feel a bit overwhelming with all the information out there, all the cultural differences, the visas and everything like that, if you really want to do it, you can do it. There are many resources out there for you. And if you have any specific questions about moving to Thailand or about relocating, just drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer your questions. In my next video, I'll be going a little bit deeper into the different teaching options here in Thailand. So if you're interested in that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.